So, where was I? Thanks. Time travel. Time travel is dependent upon a few things. The first and most important thing is that you understand how it works. So what I'm going to describe real quick is how time travel works. Time travel, not like the movies, is dependent upon your position in a Cartesian coordinate across space and time. Now, you know that the Earth moves, and as the Earth goes along, if you were to go forward or backward in time, it wouldn't be like me standing here and then me, poof, I'm in the future. It would be you going backward or forward in time, and you'd have to calculate the Cartesian coordinate where you would be if you did a time push forward or backward. And we'll go into the details in a minute, but the main thing is that if you did a push, you have to calculate for, well, locally you have to calculate for the Earth's spin. Hold on a second. The time coordinates, like I mentioned, are based upon your Cartesian coordinates. So if you're to do a time push forward or backward, you'd have to calculate that. So the Earth's spinning, the Earth is moving, the solar system is moving, the galaxy is moving, everything else. So if you can do a short little jump, you wouldn't have to calculate that much. But like, for example, if I were to do a push, just a tiny push, I would move from one coordinate to another coordinate, and I would end up at the secondary coordinate, forward or backward, depending on which way you push in space-time. The delay would be the same, forward or backward. It would just be like almost like a time gun. You could aim it at something, or in this case, that's a time gun there. You would aim it at something, and anything that it interacted with, the beam itself, the time beam essentially would hit something, and then that something would absorb the wave and then resonate it across space and time away from itself. So it like hits you and then push you out of your time essentially, or push you into a new time. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, all right, so what I've got to do is, let's say I want to go to Mars. Well, if I want to go to Mars without a rocket, you could save a lot in rocket costs if you were to use time pushes to put the vehicle itself from a launching pad, as you can see here, into space. And you have these different zones away from the time launcher itself that you'd be able to push yourself into, different distances, different times, and you could literally put yourself in orbit. Now, this heralds a new type of defense system too, because let's say you use this against an incoming ballistic missile or any type of projectile. You could create a static time field or a burst of time-based particle energy, and you'd be able to take the projectiles and put them in a different time, which would also put them in a different space. So you'd physically move them away. So, for example, if something were to shoot at you, you could say stop by saying, I'm going to take that thing, whatever it is. Let's say it's a missile, and the missile is coming at you, and you're here. And if you were to shoot a time burst at it, you would push that missile as the pulse crossed the missile. You'd push that missile into a different time, which would also be a different space, because it's already traveling at some ungodly miles per hour, 25,000 miles per hour, some crazy thing. However, that doesn't protect it from the flow of time. It only protects it from the flow of matter. So a time pulse from a time beam directed energy weapon such as this one would be able to affect the incoming ballistic missile or projectile of any kind. Even all the way down to bullets, you'd be able to create effective shielding, because you could take those bullets and literally just point them down into the dirt, point them down into the earth, and it wouldn't really matter the time. You just have to redirect their time, push them towards the dirt. Where's the earth going to be? Well, the earth's spinning 1,000 miles per hour, it's traveling such and such speed, blah, blah, blah. So quite literally, you could create a time shield using this technology as well, which is very important, because that moves us into a brand new type of defense systems, weapon systems. Everything changes because of time. Now, how do we reach that point? Well, according to my calculations and my observations, this is a time wave projection system, or a series of time wave projection systems for time or real travel to or to send things. For example, this could be a big thing for Amazon. You know, we're going to affect everything with this one. Amazon or any type of shipping service. You go to that last page where you hit the shipping, right? And let's say there was an option. Okay, you want to get the Tesla Cybertruck, but you want it now. Well, you could have that time affected by you. You pay more. Let's say you pay $20,000 more to get your truck now. Now, how would you do that? You would have a time depot where your truck in the future would be sent to that depot via a time progression or time wave system, and then it would appear in the past at that exact location. So you'd have these like centers for receiving time sent objects, and those objects would be sent back in time in this particular case when you ordered them. Or you could even do something even stranger in the sense that, you know, when do you want to receive it? Would it be from the moment you click the order? Would that be the earliest you could get it? Or could that object have already been delivered a month ago, a week ago? You know, even before literally you click it, and it was already at the depot waiting for you to pick it up. So all the logistics necessary for moving that item or that object to the shipping depot would have already been accomplished by groups and teams of people. And then of course you would have that object waiting for you at a time depot, say for Amazon or one of these other delivery services. So that's the future. And how do we get there? That's the important question, right? Well, if you use something called a copper ion collider, you can create a lot of these things called strange quarks. And the strange quarks are what generate K0 particles. K0 particles, as far as we can tell, are the only particles that travel backward in time. The K0 particle has about 16 electron masses, not very much, so you need a whole bunch of them. So it's going to take a lot of copper, believe it or not. So copper is going to be one of those things, since we're basically taking copper and smashing it, like for real. You know, is it going to be a mass exchange, or are you going to be able to generate a field that allows you to push something through a membrane? Probably the latter. That you can push a time field at something, and then if it happens to have the time field pass over it, it would go forward or backward. It would displace in time. Time displacement would occur. The time waves, even though the K0 particle is unique in the sense that even though it travels backward in time, it travels backward in time to annihilate itself. So it takes care of the inevitable or the arguable paradox in the sense that it destroys itself. However, the time wave effect that it generates would be able to survive or be amplified en masse, and you'd be able to have a time projection wave system, or like this is showing here. You'd have your copper ion accelerator and splitter. You'd create copper ions, accelerate them, send them out to 50 to 200 gigavolt accelerator. Then you take that beam and you'd separate the beam off into pulses into this secondary collider. And the secondary collider here, I've got this one drawn as a triangle, but of course this one here is a 5-way. So you probably would use a 5-way, but you could probably use a triangle too. That's why I drew this like this. This would get you 30% higher compression with the same types of arranged energy, and allows for leakage at the points. So you end up with more flow through, less energy to create the pinch, and this is more of a containment system, but to create the time waves themselves. Now, at the collision point, according to our current systems, that's 8 trillion degrees Celsius. 8 trillion degrees Celsius. So the K0 time waves, in this particular case, this is the final stage is the compression ring. You can see I've kind of drawn it here above the coordinator or combiner, the 5-way combiner, and you could probably use 3. I just drew 5 because it just felt right when I was drawing it, and it just kind of cool came out that way. Let me see here. Depending on the direction of wave and position of the space-time relative to the sending platform, You could, for example, launch things from Earth. And when I say launch, you could send them through time and they would just appear on the moon. Or in the case of Mars, same thing. You could have something and just have it appear in the future on Mars, or in the past for that matter, which is interesting because quite literally you could build a base, piece by piece, nut by nut. I mean, literally, you could be like, okay, we need that next bolt, and then that bolt would appear in exactly the right coordinate if you have enough math to back up what you're doing. And if you got enough money to build one of these things, you got enough math. I mean, it's interesting to see the progression of these technologies and where they lead. So what we're dealing with right now, at least in my realm, is angry weirdos. I'm not sure who they are. They're getting progressively more covert. Ever since I made this board, it's like kicked it up a notch, and this is important technology. It will affect commerce. It will affect warfare. It will affect the human lifespan, because this leads to stasis technologies, which allow for, in medical terms, you could have somebody who was waiting to be seen by like some super specialist, and they could wait indefinitely if you could generate a proper stasis field, or send them to a time slot in the future at a time receiving center where they could be seen by the professional at that time. So now let me see here. Well, it says you need at least 100 gigavolts to induce the formation of the strange pairs. Strange pairs decay into the K0 particles, and you end up with some pi and some other particles. Come off there. 16 electron masses, speed of light squared. You got time, and you've got your radiant flux, and it's self-annihilation through CP violation. You end up with two distinct streams. The one you want is the K0 stream, and you get force over mass times acceleration. And that right there is kind of like what I'm talking about here when I talk about this whole platform and everything being built into a launch pad, which could launch rockets into space. So you would literally time travel to space instead of launching yourself into space. So you wouldn't need like all the giant rockets. You would just need like a self-contained pod thing, depending on how much you want to send up. You want to send up one person, well, you only need like a pod big enough for a person or a group of people. Like just like the command capsule, or just the landing capsule. Or you need some type of environmental system, of course, because if you put something on the launch pad, the objective is to displace it in time so that it ends up in orbit. And that should take way less energy, way less resources, and you could do it over and over and over again as long as you had the power. And of course the copper. So copper in the future is going to be worth even more than it is now. Like, since you can't do this with gold, well, you can kind of do it with gold, but not as much. You can't generate the strange pairs that you need for the K0 particles, so copper is going to be super, super valuable because we're going to actually consume it. And when I say consume it, I mean literally consume it with this type of copper ion system. The copper ion collides with copper ions, generates a strange pair, so now the copper is where? It's gone. So now we have literally consumed or burned copper from an atomic level, and it doesn't exist anymore. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I mean, it leads to time stasis tech, so you have medical applications, you have defense systems that go way beyond anything that is currently known. I haven't seen anything that is applying this technology, whereas you could. And if you went in that direction, eventually, or probably pretty soon, you would have a time beam projection cannon system, which you'd be able to rotate and aim, and whatever you pointed at, you would displace in time. So you could have time tanks if you wanted. You could have all these secondary big budget items, but you could also have an effective missile defense net that nothing could get through. I mean, you're dealing with time. You're literally going to be displacing whatever you point at this thing, or whatever you point this thing at, is going to displace it in time and space. Now, does that mean that Eventually it could be the reverse. Well, to a degree. I mean, either way you push, there's only so far you can go forward and only so far you can go backward. So it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to deal with larger scale threats that would be scaled based upon this technology. In the interim, whoever had it first would win. Period. Just wouldn't matter. You know, if you had time displacement, beam, and wave technology, you would win all the fights. There would be no question about it. And could you do it quietly? Probably. But there's going to come a time when this type of technology is going to be known. I mean, people are getting smarter every day. And not to mention the AI out there. It's going to find this and go, oh, well, I can do calculations on a loop scale. So now you have these supercomputers that can loop it forward or backward in time and do calculations across time. And now they can come up with answers before all the other computers. I mean, quantum computers, those are fast, yeah, sure. But imagine a supercomputer that was scaled and had proper software and support and staffing and stuff. And now you envelop that supercomputer in either a continuous time bubble shell or something that would allow it to loop its calculations across time. And it can come up with the answer literally to any situation. And you could be like in the future and begin calculating what you saw, and then send that data back, or it's always in a loop, so that loop exists. Or, I mean, there's so many possibilities with this type of technology. Can we do it? Yeah, we can do it. It would take a bunch of money and a bunch of really smart people wanting to do it. And from what I've said so far, this sounds like a really great idea, and that we should definitely do it as a species, as an entity, to usher in higher level AI that would just eclipse anything. It could outthink anything, literally, because it could be in the future and send that data back to the past after it crunched it over time. Bing, 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 bing. So can we do it with entangled communication? Well, entangled communication is the here and now. With time displacement beam technology, you could send that data as a radio burst, riding the carrier wave back in time or forward in time. You could send distress signals to the future, and then the future could respond with calculations or even materials and weapons. I mean, this opens up a brand new understanding of how time travel works and how space travel works. Like how do we move through space and go 27 light years and not die from the G-forces, from the radiation, from the travel itself, all these other things. You have to have a better form of travel to send people across space and time and across the galaxy, across the universe. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. It's just, I mean, you need proper stasis technology. You need to be able to project yourself across time and space. Have all your stuff there when you're going. Anyways, so I've been having some very negative interactions with some individuals here on this timeline and this plane. So if you're watching this, just understand these guys are like deadly serious, whoever the hell they are, and I don't know who it is, and it's kind of freaking me out. And you know, normal people only understand so much when it comes to these types of interactions. The truly, I don't want to call them despicable, but yeah, that's the best way to put it. The truly despicable individuals that are, I don't know, trying to stop this type of progressional technology, to stop, you know, the distribution. And this is on like another level of technology. So even though this video just came out, you know, in the future it would be watched and they could respond in kind, sending something back to try to prevent its creation. But the universe wants this, otherwise it never would have been created. It wouldn't have multiple layers of redundancy. It wouldn't have me giving you the examples that I'm giving you, because a lot of times all it takes is an idea. So you smart people out there who are watching this right now, be careful. When you start messing with time tech, man, you're going to get some pushback from some weird directions, and I'm not sure why, but maybe they just want to make sure that you're worthy to push it into the next level. And like I said, I'm here to inspire. I'm here to show you something else when it comes to time travel. And you might have thought in this direction before, but I'm sure you didn't put all these pieces together. I don't know very many people that could. It's just time and time travel. It works differently than I don't know, Marty McFly and all this other, all these things, Back to the Future, all this stuff. Are they close? Well, do you have to reach 88 miles per hour to have enough flux to do it? I don't know how you could use like a natural flux doing that. This is a hardcore generated copper ion collider that smashes copper atoms together to generate strange pairs, to generate K0 particles, to combine those maybe the strange pairs come up in here, and then you get the collision, you get the 8 trillion degrees C, and that's pretty hot too. Do you need 1.21 gigawatts? You probably need a lot more than that. As a matter of fact, you do. You need at least 100 giga electron volts, so that's like a lot. I don't think I missed anything on the board, but that pretty much wraps up my video. It's going to be real short. Please comment below. Time travel is really cool. This just gives us a bunch of different ways to look at how to use time wave projection technology and how to win at the calculation war, at real wars. How do we protect our servicemen? How do we protect ourselves? How do we make it so medical is readily available for these future generations, or at least even the now? I mean, there's probably like super rich guys that would be like, hey, I need that because at some point I'm going to need to be put in a stasis pod so I can get transported to this expert, and then you wait, right? You're in the stasis pod and you wait. So stasis pod technology, really important. Could you micronize this? Could you make this small? Could you somehow come up with 8 trillion C in a portable version that you could put inside a coffin looking thing? Maybe. But in the meantime, what if we could just send that sick person to the slot at the hospital that they would need to be at to survive the situation? I think that would be better. I think that if you had like a time depot hospital, that would be the best way to go. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it. Talk to you later. I'm Zio205IQ. Tune in. We'll have more discussions like this. Hopefully, if these weirdos out there don't just convince me not to do these anymore. Anyways, it's dangerous out there. Be careful, all you smart people. Watch your back. Buy some armor. Literally, go buy some. If you don't have some yet, you should probably go buy some. The world's a dangerous place. Smart people should protect themselves. And just be careful, smell, taste, and touch. Everything in the world, you need to pay attention to it. You need to pay attention to it. Otherwise, you won't get to make it into the future and see time travel for real. Because it'll happen. I mean, we talk about time travel. What could it be used for? Well, you could go back in time and see all your favorite bands. That'd be worth it, right? What if that was like 20 grand? You could go back and see Van Halen live in the 80s, or whoever your favorite band is. I think time travel is on its way. It's not that hard to really figure out when you start talking about available time wave technology versus, relativistic travel and the other things that you use to go into the future. This more allows you to go in the future, the past, and through space. So you go through time and space. Anyways, cool. Talk to you later.